During the holidays, there was nothing better than curling up with a blanket, some hot chocolate, and watching some classic Christmas specials. Mickey's Christmas Carol has some of the most beautiful animation that does an amazing job telling this story. We don't need an entire subplot showing Bob Cratchit being tired and overworked. Instead, they have him move very stiff and slow. There are also background details. Take Scrooge's office, with posters that read, "Talk is cheap and time is money," building out character while simultaneously pushing the story forward. The story is an all-around fun time that will fill you up with Christmas joy. I am sorry to everybody who grew up with the Charlie Brown Christmas, but for me, I thought it was just okay. I understand that the animation was a reference to the comic strip, and I think it was really cool how so much world building was built into the animation. But for me, someone who grew up in the early 2000s, I think it looked very lazy and unfinished. More like a first draft than a final version. Personally, I would not have minded this if they used the animation to further the intended message. For example, what if the sets got bigger and brighter as Charlie's mood improves? But I also understand that this is a very specific animation style that represents the time period where someone like me would find these things depressing was an accurate depiction of the time period. The story is serious, far more realistic and down to earth than most Christmas specials. The plot meanders and the tone depressing. It takes a full 7 minutes before we get into the story. The second act is a little bit better as the story finally starts to find its footing. However, the ending is where everything really comes together in a very satisfying and wholesome way. Still, it makes me wonder if the 25-minute runtime is really worth that wholesome ending. The characters are forgettable. The only one I found bearable was Charlie Brown, who has a nice arc about participating in the holidays, even if it has been a little commercialized. On some level, this works because of how real it feels. And I appreciate the different feel of this short trying to be bigger, trying to make a bigger point about the holidays. In a way, The Grinch is the fully realized version of a Charlie Brown Christmas that makes its point about the holidays in a far more interesting and focused way, taking the strengths of both Mickey's Christmas Carol and A Charlie Brown Christmas to create a perfect Christmas special. The story is simple, but also just heartfelt enough to be meaningful. The first half is clearly used to explain why the Grinch does not like Christmas, while the second half has him slowly redeem himself. The animation is inviting and warm. Note in the opening, notice how no two snowflakes look the same as the backgrounds fade away and become real places. The character animation is also phenomenal. Take the Grinch. He moves very stiffly, showing he is a grumpy old man. Max never speaks, and yet we know exactly what he is thinking. If I had to make one small complaint, it's the narration. Boris Karloff does an amazing job, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder if we really needed a narrator. The animation already tells us everything. Boris Karloff also voices every character. To me, that makes the animation that makes the movie feel lazy, like they didn't have the money to hire a cast. This is not a huge problem, as you get used to it very, very quickly, and becomes part of the charm as you remember your own childhood, reading the story by the fire at Christmas. Making this video was really special for me. Watching some of the most classic Christmas specials that I grew up with. Going back down memory lane and reliving my childhood. And I hope everyone else at home is doing the same thing this Christmas. And I have nothing more to say, but Merry Christmas, everyone.